Today I'm going to show you how to fix the blower on a Kenmore hood vent. When these blowers go bad, you can't really replace it with another Kenmore hood vent because they don't make these anymore. Because like many other Sears appliances, they just stop making them. So if you want your hood vent to work, if it stops, if the blower has an issue, then you have to replace it. Common reasons why the blower goes bad is because the bearings in the motor go out. I am replacing this for the second time, and I'm doing it because I don't want to pay for a whole new hood vent. It's cheaper to replace the blower. There's no other tutorial online that I found to do this, so that's why I'm recording this. I'm going to take you through those steps. So these are some of the tools you're going to want to do this job. We're going to start with a standard Phillips head screwdriver. You're going on a flat head also. This is one I have attached to a removable bit screwdriver to be able to loosen some of the bolts that are going to be in there. You're going to want a socket wrench with, this has got a 7mm socket on it. And you're going to want to use that to loosen the ground bolt. If you don't have a socket, that's fine. You should be able to do it with a simple pair of pliers. And also another optional thing, I've got a Phillips head bit that you can put on this so that I can loosen the bolts from the side. But that's also not necessary because they got wing nuts on it, so you can loosen it from the wing nut side too. You're going to want a knife to be able to cut the wires, and these are some tools I also have to make this a lot easier. You could do this all with a knife, but it's going to be kind of a pain. So I'll show this later. You can use this to cut and remove the sheath off the wire, and you're going to want electrical tape at the very end. You're also going to want a set of wire nuts too. I have some spare wire nuts left over because they always come with every ceiling fan that I install, and you're going to want 6 of them. First thing you're going to want to do before replacing this, once you have the part that you need to replace, is to turn off the power. So I'm going to go do that. I have my circuit breaker in my garage. To turn off the power, you're going to have to find the circuit specifically dedicated to the hood range fan. So I got that right here. I'm going to turn it off. It's this 20 amp circuit right here. If you have a modern home, you probably have a circuit dedicated to the hood range fan. Otherwise, you would have to turn off the rest of the power in your kitchen. Now I'm going to check that I turned off the right circuit. The easy way to do this is just turn it on. Alright, we can use a voltmeter, but nothing's coming on. I knew it was before. So I'm going to start by removing these 2 screens. They just come off just like this. Now, we're going to have to get the old blower out. So that's going to be done by removing a couple of screws. Here I have a replacement motor that I want to show first because removing it isn't just a couple of screws. It is a couple of wires that have to be removed also. Now, unlike many other appliances, this doesn't just have a live, neutral, and a ground line. This actually has a lot more wires. So there's 3 different strands of wires that come out. So number 1, this green and yellow one is the ground. This goes to a large power capacitor, and you see these frayed ends right here, they're actually soldered on. And then this one goes to a control board. This is where it is supplying the power. Now, the way that it is supposed to be, all of these are soldered straight to where they're supposed to go. In order to replace them, you would have to desolder them and resolder these back on, which is how I did it last time. That is not the approach I'm going to take this time. This time, I'm going to just cut and use wire nuts to join all my wires together. I'm going to leave myself plenty of length. The first thing we're going to want to do to remove the old blower, is to remove this bezel right here. And there's 4 screws to do it. This one, and on the other side, this one, this one. After that, we'll make sure there's enough space for the old blower to come out, and then you'll remove this screw and this screw right here. Now that we got these 2 loosened a little bit, they're not going to come all the way out just yet. We're going to actually have to get them from the other side. They bolt. We're going to slide this up. You'll notice two wing nuts right here. Remove the wing nuts on either side. Here's a better angle of where those wing nuts come out when you slide this up. So you see these washers on it, also take those out because otherwise they'll just fall. Take them off right now, then you'll be able to pull the screws out from the other side. When you slide this up far enough, you'll notice that it exposes a lot of the electronics here. So there's two important wires that we're going to be looking for that are threaded up this way. One of them, this is the grounding wire right here. This right here is the wire that goes to the capacitor. I could remove these two screws to reveal the capacitor, and I could effectively desolder the two ends of the wires from here, but instead of doing that, again, I'm just going to cut the wire and use wire nuts. Also, this doesn't just stay up by itself. A moment ago I used a socket wrench to prop it up, and now I'm just using some sort of plastic cup. Of course, no wire in here. Otherwise it'll just fall right back down. So now I'm going to want to get these screws out, which don't have anything attached to them now. Now they'll just slide right on out. But you'll notice that they're flush. So I'm going to try to pull it through just a little bit. I'm using a flathead to do that. So I'm going to want to hold some counter pressure to this while I do it. Because once this comes out, it's going to want to kind of fall down. I'm going to do that on the other side too. These two bolts are really crucial for holding this in. Now, once this does fall down, you're going to have to work it out a little bit. Well, or it just comes right out. But that's it. Work it on through just a little bit. And it's going to hang by its wires right now. That's okay. We're just going to be able to hold a little bit. We're not going to swing it or anything. Now, you'll notice the angle I was just at to be able to get that. This is me lying across the top of my stove on my back to be able to get to that angle. I'm not going to want to lie on the stove. Not a good idea. You could damage it. So the two methods you could do are just pull the stove out and do it standing up. Or what I did right here, I just have some spare wood and I put some boards across, propped it up so I wouldn't touch the top of the stove at all. Now that we're this far out, I've got my blower exposed. This is the part where I would either have to desolder my wires to get this thing disconnected, because the wires are the only thing holding this in now, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to straight up cut the wires. So there are 3 strands again that we're going to want to remove. And I'm going to cut them as far up as I can. Because what I want to do is I want to give myself plenty of length from both. So if this right here, my new blower, is what I have, I'm not going to cut it here, and I'm not going to cut it in half. I'm probably going to try to cut it a lot closer to there. So I'll just have some extra room to play with. And I'm going to want to cut the other ones about that same length too, to the extent that I can get to them, access them. This one I want to cut it all, I can just undo the bolt and put the new one in. You'll notice here that this bezel is going to be suspended by some of these wires. And so I have fed this wire through here. And I have even used a zip tie the last time I replaced this to keep them bundled together. So I'm going to want to undo that zip tie and gain access to this wire again, cut it, because this is going to be going straight to the control unit right here. Now that we're ready to cut the wires, I have my blower sitting on top of a couple of things to stabilize it, because once we cut the wires, nothing's holding this up anymore. So I'm going to want to have 2 hands to be able to control the knife as I cut the wire, and I don't want this to fall the moment I do that. That would cause more problems. So I'm just going to go straight through these 2. Alright, I'm going to cut about this. I'm going to cut really close to the old motor. Again, that's going to need a lot of length. Remember, always cut away from this. In this case, I'm cutting through the sheath and 4 wires. Got that one? And same with this one. This is just 2 wires. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the ground screw up there, or the ground nut, and just remove the entire blower altogether. So I just fed this back down through here. One of the things, now the blower is totally free. As soon as I get it on this very flimsy bezel, the blower's totally free. This is going to have to be pulled off of this, and you're going to have to put it on the new blower. I've removed a bit of the sheathing from the new blower. So when you do that, you're going to want to expose a little more of the wire than they have. So it's usually good to have a tool like this. You just expose a little bit more of it. So that way you have more to put in the wire nut to connect. Now we're going to transfer the brace from the old blower to the new blower. So now I have both sets of wires exposed with a reasonable amount of wire. I'm going to take these wire nuts right here. I have 6 of them because I have 6 total wires that need to be connected, and I'm just going to twist them all together. I've propped the new blower back up because I need to take my final grounding wire, feed it up through this hole so it comes out this hole right here up top, so I can put the nut back on and get this, get the nut back on and get it connected. I'm going to need it propped up so I have the length I need to make that connection. I got it fed back through, so we're going to take our nut, and don't forget the lock washer also, and you got to just make sure that there's another wire that's got just its wire threads, and you just got to make sure that goes back on too. Everything else has a loop. Now we're ready, that we've got it all wired up, our wire nuts all connecting, to just shove the thing back up there, screw it in. I'm going to have to remove the spacing for a bit, and it's going to hang free while I get myself back under there to put it in. The brace is gone. It's suspended now basically from the grounding wire. Obviously you don't want to swing it so you don't compromise the wire at all. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to shove it up there, fit it in there, and you're going to want to have these 2 bolts that you took out beforehand. And you're going to want to have them handy so you can just stick them through. These are the holes that they're going to go through on each side of it. You're just going to want to stick them through and hold it in place, because then we're going to get our wing nuts back on through the other side. And make sure, of course, this part goes up, it's the blower, and this part's going to go towards the back. Alright, let's go ahead and try to fit this in here. Releasing this tension off these wires. Get it around the bezel. This is very flexible. Okay, obviously get the blower to fit through the hole. It'll slide right in. Alright, it'll slide right into the hole, and it'll fit right in place. It was a good fit. I've warped my bezel a little bit, but I'm gonna end up bending it back. So I have this bolt ready. I'm gonna shove it in here, and the other one is gonna go on the other side. To get down to do this one so we can see it at a better angle. It's suspended now that the first bolt's in. Okay, make sure you get your wing nuts on both sides. Alright, make sure you also get your lock washer on too. And then just screw on. It's possible you may need to hold the other end when you put in, but there's enough tension because the whole blower is resting on these. There's enough tension that this shouldn't turn One of it is just to ensure that they're not going to vibrate out of place. Otherwise, they're pretty well suspended. We're done with everything up here. Oh, no, there's whatever. There's my top of wood. Slide it back down. Now, the last step I have is to get the bezel back on, and I placed the zip tie. Now, I didn't actually necessarily have to do that step, and I'm obviously telling you a little late in the video. You might have already removed it, but it does help to remove it to have some slack on the wire when you're trying to work with it. You don't necessarily need that to get the length out of it you need, but I took it off and I just replaced it. Now, one of the consequences for doing it this way is that there's a lot of excess wire, and now I'm going to want to try to shove this out of the way, but it made it easier to work with, and so I'll probably take a zip tie and try to find a place where I can hold it out of the way. Now, one of the other things I might recommend before putting the covers on, because essentially we're done now minus putting the screens on for the grease, is that these joints, will be exposed to all the air and moisture that will come through here. So it's probably a good idea to put some electrical tape on them to just get them extra covering from the elements, since we've exposed the wire themselves. Okay, I've just replaced the covers. I went to the breaker to turn the power back on. So I go slide that on, get my lights on, and here we have a functioning blower again. All right, see you next video.